Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the podcast. I am Beanon, joined by the one, the only, the fantasy master, Lothario, Gray Albright. How you doing over there, Gray?
I'm doing better than the Mets. That's for sure.
Yep, that intro collapsed about as well as the Mets did there. I thought I would go somewhere today, and I was like, no, we're just back to the old, as did the Mets. They just did their old thing, and they collapsed and didn't make the playoffs.
I know. It was like, what is the most Mets thing that possibly could Mets? And that is, what's the most heartbreaking thing that could happen? And that is having a game where all you have to do is beat the Marlins. The Reds had already lost. They were like the Reds' entire team was like waiting to see what would happen with the Mets. All the Mets had to do was win, and they would have got into the playoffs. And also, like, the hardest hit ball of the year for the New York Mets was Pete Alonso's line drive with the bases loaded, and it was a line drive out to the left fielder, and so that ended like their best rally. They were up, I think they were up like 20 plus games or something, over 500. It was like everything that could have went wrong for the Mets, and that is very Metsian. That's how the Mets do. I feel like they might have made a deal with the devil in like 1986 to the detriment of Bill Buckner. So the Mets did something, man. They did something to curse themselves. They have like there's definitely bad teams. Like the Pirates, like top hitter was like Tommy Pham. Like there's bad teams in the major leagues. The Mets were not a bad team. They were definitely a little bit ill-prepared as far as pitching goes, but their hitting was really good. They had a good team. They should not have missed the playoffs. They are really. It's not like the fact that they didn't really have the best of pitching, but the fact that the Reds made it to the playoffs, like the Reds were not a better team than the Mets. But yeah, anyway, oh well.
They lost series in the last in their last handful of series. They lost one to the Marlins, the Nationals, and the Rangers. These teams are not even trying to win, Gray, and they couldn't get it done. The Marlins probably were trying to win that last game just to pull a full Mets and let them enjoy their sulk in their just disdain for the whole offseason. But a $343 million salary, and they don't make the playoffs, Gray. That's pretty brutal. Yeah. And yes, of course, the way it happened was also just awful. Like you said, they didn't really have the pitching. They waited too long to call up their pitching that was in the minors that maybe could have helped. Maybe they wouldn't have in the long term. Who knows? But it was just it all just fell apart. But let's move off that topic.
Actually, before we move off of that, I hope they don't think like I hope they don't plan on being like the Orioles, where like they have great pitching. The Mets, have great pitching coming up, so they don't feel like they need to add any pitching in the offseason. Like, I don't know if like where the Orioles didn't add anyone because they felt like they had they had great hitting, so they felt like they could have just coasted to the playoffs. But I hope the Mets don't do the same, because I like Jonathan and Sprout and McLean, but they're going to be rookies. Like, you can't trust rookie pitchers. So I don't know. Anyway, now we can move on. I was just thinking about how like the Mets may think that they're going to be in better shape next year because they have like these rookie pitchers that are going to be there. But who knows what you're going to get from that?
Yeah, maybe press the challenge button on that idea of not signing anybody gray. But one thing that they'll have next year that'll be across the whole league, we are going to get robot umps to some degree, Gray. That's
Woohoo!
gonna be a fun addition to the league. They're doing the challenge system like they did in the All-Star game to start, at least. There's no way the umpire union is just going to let you straight up replace one of four umpires, but it's a good start.
I would like to see the robot umps instead of because it's metaphorically a robot ump in that it is actually just a video camera and someone in a booth is looking at it to see if it's a strike or a ball. I would like to actually see a Johnny Five from Short Circuit, on the field, making the balls and strikes. I want to see actual robots, is what I'm saying. That's what I want. If I were the commissioner, I would have robots just coming out. It's we're exchanging the lineup cards. Wait, why is that robot ump breaking Tito Francona's arm? What is he doing? No! Get the robot off of him. I'm actually excited. I saying Rob Manfred, as much crap as we give Manfred, the pitch
Deservedly.
yeah, he deserves it, obviously. But the pitch clock was the pitch clock's one of the best rule changes in my lifetime. And robot umps, even though it's we're getting it piecemeal and they're not going to be completely across the board, you're going to have to do the challenges like you mentioned. I fully embrace the robot umps. I'm ready for that to happen. And anyone who's because people were saying, Keith Law, ESPN's Keith Law, or no, excuse me, the Athletics Keith Law now, excuse me. The Athletics Keith Law was saying that catcher framing by a catcher is not a real thing. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. You can look up what he actually said verbatim, but he said something like catcher framing isn't really a real thing because it's you're taking a pitch that is not really a strike and you're trying to make it a strike, and vice versa with it's you should just if you have balls and strikes and you have an actual strike zone, you should call balls and strikes. That's what it's somehow along the way we've discovered catchers can bring a ball in and frame a pitch to make a ball look like a strike. It's yeah, okay, but it wasn't a strike. I mean, it's not a strike. There shouldn't be this pitcher was in the league for 20 years, so he gets a bigger strike zone than this rookie. No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know, man. I want balls and strikes the same for every pitcher and every hitter. And it shouldn't be Juan Soto, just because he has a good eye, home plate umps are more likely to give him or call a ball for him versus a rookie hitter. No, he should get the same strike zone as everyone else. So I'm fully on board with this. Even though it's only going to be 2 challenges or whatever it is per game, hopefully this will get rolled out this year, in 2026. And then, going forward, we'll get more challenges, and then eventually it'll just be across the board. I imagine it's going to take some time, like how, the DH wasn't the DH in the AL and the NL for many years. I don't know if we're going to need that many years to have robot umps, but we probably are going to need a good, I would guess, 5 years before it's really considered something that's going to happen across the board for the whole game. But I'm ready for it, man. I feel like a ball should be a ball and a strike should be a strike. Call me crazy, but that's what I want.
Yeah, I will say every sport has its version of veteran versus rookie calls. So I do understand that to some degree, but I'm with you. Let's just get the calls right and let's move on from there. I hope that eventually we get to kind of where football is starting to move where, if it's close, you have to use a challenge. But if an umpire misses a pitch by 4 inches, then they just kind of automate it from, the headquarters, and they say, hey, you messed that one up. We're just gonna fix this one real quick. Like, that's where I would like it to get. If we're more than 2 inches wrong one way or the other, like, let's just readjust and let's fix that one and not have to waste a challenge because it's stupid. Like, that's where I would like us to eventually get with this. But I'm appreciative of at least the challenge system. We can get rid of some of it. And also maybe this will bring down the umpires just a notch. I know they're still going to be way up here in terms of their thought of themselves. But if we could just bring them down a notch, that'd be great, because this just means like at least twice a game we can be like, hey, you know what? You were wrong. You have to admit it because it's on the board and this is now your job to admit that you were wrong.
Admit it. That's what the umpire. That's what will be part of the challenge rules. Should be like, not only do you have to, not only is the call wrong, but the umpire has to get on the stadium mic and say, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, I mean, if you have to say you were wrong and I'm sorry, I feel like that has to lower you a little bit and make you more reasonable. Ask any person in the world who's been in a relationship. Like, you have to say I'm sorry repeatedly, you get pretty good at it real fast. Versus if you don't have to say it at all for years, it's a little bit harder because you were single and you were just
I was
holed
thinking
up somewhere.
Okay, let's not go too far down your.
I'm not going to try and
relationship.
I'm not kicking that can any further.
Let's not go too far down your relationship woes. But I was going to say though, like, I do wonder, because like human psychology when it comes to umps, like, I would imagine that if a guy is if someone gets challenged and they're wrong, say like 5-6 times in a row, like they keep getting challenged and they keep getting it wrong, and like they have to overturn it. I do wonder if that'll like affect their strike zone, and like I would imagine it would. Like I could see like a potential where like they had their strike zone was too narrow, and they kept getting calls overturned for the pitcher. I could see by like the 3rd inning, like their strike zone expands, and suddenly they're calling more strikes, and then it goes the other way. Like it wouldn't shock me to see that happen. That like eventually the umpires get to the point where it's like the challenges are messing with their head and changing the strike zone. I could see that happen.
I mean, I feel like it's just more accountability, which is a great thing for a untouchable union of people. Like, we should just have some accountability built in, and this has to help with that. Like, they have to be like, I keep missing them low. Like, obviously, I have to pick up that low ball, and there's definitely umpires out there who miss certain parts of it. And I will say, I'm fully rewinding now back to the catcher framing. I feel like that was always overblown. Like, it's not catcher framing. It's the catcher being a veteran and getting the umpire to be like, that was a strike. The umpire is watching the ball. You're not watching the glove. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that framing was thought of. It matters, but it's not end all be all type of stuff. So yes, let's move it into the future. Let's get these things right, Gray. Unlike some of our calls this year, but let's get into that. Let's get into our wrap up of the season. It's going to be a long show, so let's move into it here. First off, Gray, I know but everybody says nobody cares about your leagues, but I mean, some people care about your leagues. So why don't you tell the people how your leagues went?
Yeah. So how'd your leagues go?
Yeah.
I was winning Tout Wars. I was winning for, I want to say, the majority of the season, but I stumbled badly in that league. I had Ellie De La Cruz, James Wood, Ranger, Suarez, Lazardo. I had a lot of guys who did not have good second halves. So unfortunately I ended up in second place. I lost that league. And then labor, I was never good in labor this year. This year, for some reason, I won labor last year, but for this year, for whatever reason, my team just never clicked offensively in labor. Well, I mean, I know why. Gunnar Henderson has a big part of that. There's I had a lot of guys who just, I don't know, the team just wasn't built as good as, because I draft hitting heavily too, but for whatever reason, the hitting never really was there. Surprisingly, I draft hitting heavy and pitching light, and my pitching, I had like almost maxed in Ks and wins, ERA and WHIP. I did really well in pitching, but yeah, my hitting never got there. The RCL league this year was brutal, man. My saving grace for the RCL league was on the last day of the season on Sunday. I streamed 9 pitchers, and that managed to knock Sun out of first place. So I was happy to knock Sun out of first place and knock him into second. So he didn't win back-to-back years. So yeah, the RCL league was not good for me either this year. It's NFBC. I think I came in 4th in one league where it was like that was a struggle to get to 4th. I don't think at any point I was ever really in contention to be in the top 3. In those leagues, the top 3 are paid. So I would have made money if I got to the 3rd, or at least I would have got my money back if I would have got to 3rd. But yeah, I never got to 3rd. I was in 4th at the end of the year there. It wasn't a great year as far as my leagues went, unfortunately. You did good though, right?
I did all right. I won the CBS NL only auction league. That's about where I end my I did well part of the conversation, because the rest of my leagues didn't go quite as strongly. There was a lot of not great teams that I had for different reasons. The RCL, I didn't think you were going with the Sun angle. I thought you were going to say you snuck past me by 1 point.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Passed me for 6th instead of 7th.
Yeah. Me and you were battling for 6th place. Yeah, no, I didn't really care if I came in 5th or 9th. I just wanted to beat Sun in strikeouts. And I did. I think I beat him by like 4. Crazy thing is, I barely beat him in strikeouts, which knocked him out of 1st. But then I wasn't paying. I was out when lineups locked, so I could have actually moved Trevor McGill out of my IL slot and moved him into my lineup because I had 1 empty spot. And if I would have done that, I would have got the vulture win from Trevor McGill, and that would have actually put me in front of Kirksey, who actually won our RCL league. And so that would have actually bumped Stan Sun. It would have bumped Sun back up to the top. So by me not starting McGill, actually again managed to keep Sun into 2nd place. So it was good.
Yeah, it was a half-point win for Kirksey. Yeah. So congratulations on him for that win in the Parts League. Yeah, on the NL only.
Not only did he win that, but he won it like, I'm not even sure. I feel like he might be trapped under like a stack of phone books since March. Like, he made no moves. I don't even know. Like, he made like maybe 3 moves a month. And for an RCL league, like, Sun made 500 moves.
Yeah, he had no moves left for the last day. None. Yeah, he's the only person I know who does this. Him and Trust is usually pretty good about it too. But
yeah, I think Kirksey, used like maybe 50 moves all year or something. Less than maybe
even 40. Used 50.
Yeah, maybe 40. Like something
32. Insane. He made 32 moves.
32 moves all year. So that's like, so if he was actually paying attention, we were all chasing a zombie team. If he was paying attention, he probably could have been like top 3 in the entire RCL if he would have maxed his points out. Because I feel like just streaming relievers, if nothing else, streaming relievers gives you extra Ks, and you could move up at least maybe 3 or 4 points at least. And like he was, like I mean, amazing that he was able to win that league on only 30 moves all year. I mean, that's crazy. That's like one move a week. Who does that in RCL?
In RCL of all places.
Oh my god!
I mean, if you got a good team, you got a good team. Why mess with the mojo? It obviously worked. I've had leagues like that where the roster's too good, so why add anybody to it?
Yeah.
The only I was kind of like that. I didn't do a lot of additions there. I mean, I definitely made some pickups, but it's only. Like, unless you're getting one of the big trade guys, or I mean, all the rookies are owned, because we have Itch and Scott White and like 3 other prospect guys in that league. So like you can't even get prospects called up unless it's a random injury call up or something. So a lot of my team was what I had. My biggest spins was Kyle Tucker, Zach Wheeler, Acuna, Matt McClain, and Roki Sasaki. Those were my 5 biggest spins. Kyle Tucker was amazing. Zach Wheeler amazing, but they both got hurt. I got Caleb Durbin. I got Michael Bush. Andrew Abbott I got for $2. Brady Singer I got. It was really pitching. Like I led the league in pitching, which is really weird for either of us to do. I spent most of my money on hitting, and still it was the pitching that kind of carried me.
Yeah. That for me, the times I like NL only, Tout Wars is NL only, the league where I ended up in second and I was leading for most of the year. That was on pitching because, I feel like the years I win, it's when my pitching does well, because my hitting is going to do well because I invest in hitting. unless something goes completely wrong. I mean, my hitting is usually stacked. I mentioned Ellie De La Cruz and James Wood both had bad second halves, but I also had Shohei Ohtani in that league, and Andy Pajes. So having those guys in an NL only league, like Ohtani alone is like all you really need. So my hitting's fine. It's just like, the pitching. Yeah, you gotta. It's hard because NL only. It's hard to have both pitching and hitting. Like it's like it's an auction league, so you can't just it's difficult. The only leagues are difficult. So hats off to you for winning the CBS NL only, because NL only or AL only are not easy leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give the opposite side of mine, the AL only, I finished absolutely dead last. And it's because I had Class A, Pablo Lopez, Anthony Santander, George Kirby, Zach Eflin, Jason Dominguez. Like that sounded fine. It was not fine, Gray. Yeah. It was not fine at all.
Not fine.
One last shout out. Congratulations to Jory, who won the de facto RCL podcast league, because I couldn't get a podcast league going, but he won the league, the RCL podcast league. So congratulations to him. Let's jump into some content here real quick, Gray. Not even quick. We're like 20 minutes in already. Let's talk about some lessons learned real quick from 2025 that we can carry into 2026. Obviously, we talked about the rule change. That's going to bring something, but a rule change we've seen for a few years now. This is the first drop in stolen bases since we got that rule change, and it was still the 3rd highest in last 30 years.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, that's interesting, because I did feel like steals did feel down. I wasn't. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they were still up compared to before the pitch clock, but yeah, that is kind of interesting, because it felt like a little bit harder on to find steals than the last 2 years. I don't think. I mean, the fact that I think Josh Naylor sort of like epitomizes the pitch clock and how I would look at steals. Like I still don't think there's any way. Like people will say there's like you could project steals, which I guess you can, but and Juan Soto too also proves this. Like if a guy wants to steal a lot of bags, like there's no way of predicting that Juan Soto is going to approach 40 steals and Josh Naylor is going to steal 30. So I mean, yes, like Chandler Simpson can steal 100, but also like I don't know, like say James Wood, like he could steal 30 for all it's impossible to really know for sure. It was kind of interesting that it felt like this year a lot of the guys who you were anticipating, like I know like Ellie De La Cruz felt like he wasn't running as much. It felt like a weird year for guys you were relying on for steals, and then guys you weren't relying on for steals were the ones that were stealing bags. But yeah, I don't know if there's any really like any found wisdom there that you can take forward to 2026, because I feel like steals are just so unpredictable with the pitch clock. It really comes down to how much a guy wants to steal. Like, it's like Jose Ramirez is capable of 40 steals. Is he really going to steal 40 bags? I don't know. He could steal 20. He could steal 40. He could steal somewhere in the middle. It's like it's really difficult to really put your finger on exactly what a guy is going to do as far as steals, which I do think before the pitch clock, it was kind of the opposite. I feel like steals were the most predictable, because it's like if a guy's fast, he's fast. If he's slow, he's slow. Like if there's no pitch clock, I don't think Josh Naylor steals 30 bags. Now he's obviously an outlier, as is Juan Soto. But yeah, and I think it just goes back to like if a guy wants to steal, he could steal. At the end of the day, you're probably looking at, for steals, you're going to be looking at guys who are fast and who have a history of stealing, and then you're going to get these weird anomalies like Josh Naylor and Juan Soto, where it's like even though they're not fast and they have no history of running, they're going to steal, 30 bags. And, hopefully you get lucky and you grab one of those guys.
Yeah, I do think there's a team bias here too, or manager bias, they kind of go hand in hand. But there's definitely teams who don't run nearly as much, and there's teams who run as much as humanly possible. Some of that is, what they have on their roster. You see the Nationals, Brewers, and Reds at the top, and Rays number 4. They obviously have some of the game's biggest stealers, out there, but it's also because they let them run. Whereas we've discussed Wyatt Langford, and he has all the speed that you need to steal, and he did fine in regards to steals, but he could steal 40, and he's stealing 22. Like there's definitely some factors that you have to look at it in regards to stolen bases that, it always felt like manager mattered, but pre-pitch clock, pre-stolen base rules, like if you were a good stolen base guy, you were still going to get your steals regardless of the manager. And it like you said, it kind of feels a little different now, where you kind of have to grab them as you can and from some random places at times. On the opposite side, Gray, the odd year home run streak continues. I think I'm the only person who says anything about this, but if we go back to 2015, we have to go back to 2015 to find an odd year that doesn't have more home runs than every other even year in that time. And we know they're changing the balls constantly. So I don't even think it's odd year. I think it's just they go from live ball to dead ball, and it just happens to be an odd year. With that in mind, Gray, any thoughts on how you might target home runs if those are slightly down and stolen bases were also slightly down? Or is that now just kind of putting it all at a even level here?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any real takeaways other than, maybe I feel like you just got to draft. You got to draft power heavy, whether you're really, whether you want to or whether you think the homers are going to be down or not. I think I just feel like that just strategy of just drafting a lot of power either way is, the smart move. Like, I was mentioning earlier with my labor team this year, I had a down year. I won last year. I had a down year this year. Last year I had Aaron Judge. This year I could have had Aaron Judge. I just didn't. So, it's like he's, it's like the whole, like, oh, there's power later. So, don't worry about grabbing homers. It's like, no, grab homers if you can. If you can grab homers, keep grabbing them. So yeah, I like the draft power heavy early. So there won't be any real change for me. I do think that, I don't know if there's any real takeaway as far as, the odd year, even year thing either, but it is interesting though. And, the fact that the ball changes every year, I mean, it could be Rob Manfred sitting in his lair being like, this year we're having homers, next year no homers.
Yeah, and it's weird this year, Gray, and maybe it's not weird because I'm going back and looking, and it's not as weird as I thought. But if you look at the top 5 people on the player rater, I mean, Ohtani is a monster, and Soto decided to run randomly this season. But like Aaron Judge, Ohtani, Raleigh, Soto, Schwarber as your top 5, when you think of those guys, you think of power hitting over stolen bases other than Ohtani, you just think is amazing at everything because he is. Like it's more power at the top this year than I can remember it being traditionally. I really feel like it's more balanced normally, where we get a lot of power speed guys towards top, and they come later, and then they come in bunches. But the top edge of this season was definitely the power guys.
Yeah, I mean we had a catcher hit 60 homers. That's like insane. I mean I know he was like, he was one guy, but with 2 giant ass cheeks. But yeah, I mean it's crazy that Cal Raleigh, I mean, epitomizes the power for this year. I mean, 60 homers from a catcher. That's just like, again, and we've said this many times this year, but the fact that you could have had, a 60 homer catcher in like, the 9th round of drafts, like, or, for whatever he went for in auction leagues, maybe 12 to 50, $12, maybe, I don't know, whatever it was. But it's just like, you could have basically had him in every league. Like there wasn't any leagues where it was like, oh man, Cal, I had the wrong draft pick. I wasn't able to get Cal Raleigh. It's like that doesn't exist.
You had plenty of chances at him.
Yeah, you could have got him in any league you wanted him. So yeah, but I mean, you kind of could have had Kyle Schwarber too. I was like, I totally underrate Kyle Schwarber every year. I was in on Aaron Judge. I didn't end up with him anywhere. That was just a matter of like the Ohtani, Judge, Soto, like a few of those, like the top guys, like that was kind of a matter of where you were drafting in a snake draft. Like if you weren't drafting in like, if you were drafting in the top 2, you were taking Bobby Witt or Ohtani probably. Or if you were drafting like later on, like say you were drafting like 10th or 12th overall in a snake draft, then, Judge would have been gone already, or Juan Soto is probably gone already. And, Ohtani and Witt were gone already. So it's like, it's some of those guys, it's a matter of where you were drafting, but, then you have other guys like Cal Raleigh and Kyle Schwarber, where you basically could have had them anywhere.
Or you spend $100 of your auction budget on Bobby Witt and Aaron Judge, and then the rest of the team collapses in on itself. That's also a possibility. As goes one of my teams. That's okay. That's okay, Gray. One last note from this season: lowest K rate for pitchers since 2017, which, by the way, was 8 years ago. If you're trying to think, that was like yesterday. Do you think there's any adjustment we should make for pitchers next year? Is it back to K's rule, everything around me?
Yeah, I feel like the adjustment I made with the pitch clock when I decided to forego Ks to go more for Ks minus walks and go mostly just command, go mostly just walks. walk per nine or whatever, or walk rate, whatever you want to look at for command. I feel like that's the way still, because like with the pitch clock, if you're walking guys, or even if you're throwing, balls out of the strike zone, you're giving guys a chance to run on you and get into scoring position. I just feel like, a big, like Dylan Cease, for instance, led the league in K per nine, and he had a 4.55 ERA. So it's like, I feel like that says everything you need to say as far as like strikeouts go. Like strikeouts are nice, but if it's not coming with really good command, I feel like then it's a bit of a flawed approach. I like, Garrett Crochet and Scooble and Yamamoto and Freddie Peralta, but they have a better walk rate than, Dylan Cease. It's like Joe Ryan pitched really well up until September, but he also had a great walk rate, as far as, as well as a good K per nine. So it's like the K per nine, I feel like it's great to look at if you need strikeouts for sure, but I'm still feeling like you need to have good command at the end of the day. Like it's like the strikeouts are only going to go so far. Like you look at like Shane Baz had great strikeouts, but his walk rate was a mess, and he had a 4.87 ERA. So it's like you need to have the command. So yeah, I mean, I think as long as you can make up strikeouts with the middle relievers, I feel like that's the best bet for you. And just, look at strikeouts minus walks still. I'm still not sold that there's anything but strikeouts minus walks is like the best thing to look at, which is, it's kind of crazy to boil starters or boil pitchers down to one simple thing, but really like strikeouts minus walks at the end of the day. I mean, there's other things like, is a guy's like, able to throw better walks than he showed this year, then, maybe there might be, like Dylan Cease had an off year as far as his command went. So then you look at like, why was his command off? And maybe he can get back to where he was in 2024. But for the most part, strikeouts minus walks, really, like that tells you kind of everything you need to know in a lot of ways.
Or they could be named, Jack Flaherty, who is terrible.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some exceptions to the rule. Like
I'm just giving you a hard time.
The history of like, who is it? Like Ricky Nolasco and Andrew Heaney. Like it's like the history of like these guys who had great peripherals and just never put it together. So yeah, I mean, Jack Flaherty looks like a guy who's really like excellent under the hood. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with above the hood though. It doesn't look good above the
hood. Nope, he was good a month and then bad for 2. That's pretty much how his season went, Gray. I think the one adjustment I might make off of this is
maybe like Jack Flaherty becomes like Nick Pivetta, where it wasn't like Nick Pivetta for a long time looked like he was much better peripheral wise than he actually was at the end of the day when it came to his actual results. But this year Nick Pivetta put it together, so maybe Flaherty puts it together at some point. I don't know.
I actually might be on him next year. He got a little unlucky this year, but that's also because his draft price next year will be absolutely nothing versus this year where he was going, I thought, a little early. Last thing I'll say for K's real quick. I will say the one change I'm probably making for next year is, especially for my SP1, and both of us tend to wait for that. I'm not going with somebody who doesn't give me strikeouts. Like I'm not going with an ERA whip innings guy for that. I'm getting strikeouts from that guy. And then I'll, adjust from there. But I think that's probably the change that I would make is at the top. I'm going to get those big K guys and try and rack them up early and then kind of balance it out as we go. Let's get into superlatives, Gray. Best and worst calls of 2025. And I know it seems like on any social media, the fantasy community remembers all their best calls. I only remember my bad calls, Gray. So making a best list is tough for me. But what are some of your best and worst calls of the year, Gray?
I also only remember my bad calls, so I feel like maybe that's why me and you work out so well here, B-Dom, because I too only remember the bad stuff. I like, oh my God, I was so crazy about some people. And I was like, wait, like what happened to that guy? I want to say specifically, like this isn't like this didn't make or break your season, but this one sticks out to me. I was like, I heard the fences were coming in Baltimore, and I was like, oh, Ryan Mountcastle, he's gonna be so good. I feel like Ryan Mountcastle hit like 3 homers this year. It's so bad. I mean, he had like the worst year ever. I think he had less than 10 homers this year. I mean, he was injured at times. It's not, and just sticking with the first baseman theme, I was absolutely sold Michael Toglia was going to be so good. I was like, Michael Toglia was going to be that was like, oh, okay. You want to draft, you go ahead and draft your Pete Alonsos. I'm taking Michael Toglia. Toglia was terrible. Awful.
He was awful.
He was, as bad as Brenton Doyle was, Michael Toglia was actually worse. And Brenton Doyle, by the way, I fell for the Rockies outfielder thing 2 years in a row. 2 years. I fell for that stupid Rockies outfielder thing. I was totally convinced that I was like, oh yeah, Brenton Doyle. Oh yeah, no, that whole curse of Nolan Jones that's a joke. That ain't real. That's not a real thing. There's no way that happens again. I also was like, I was totally bought in on everything Braves except for Michael Harris II. I guess Michael Harris II was a good call by me. But I was also totally bought in on Ozzie Albies. I figured Acuna would come back in April and just totally be amazing. I was like, Matt Olson he seems fine.
Yes, give me him, absolutely.
Spencer Strider, I was like, actually, I didn't draft Spencer Strider anywhere. But when he was pitching in March, I was like, I kind of regret not drafting Strider. I was totally like, oh, yeah, Spencer Strider looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, there's some of the good calls, I guess, was like, I don't know. I like Pete Alonso. I didn't draft him anywhere, but I did like Pete Alonso. And he was like the top first baseman. I liked him though. I didn't draft him, but I did like him. And at the end of the day, it's like whether I like a guy or dislike a guy, I feel like is more important than whether or not I personally have him, because, the whole point of this is to give other people good advice. So yeah, I mean, I didn't have Pete Alonso, but I did tell people to draft him. So I felt like that was, a bit of a success. And then, I told people to basically, I told them to draft Bryce Terang, who was good at second base. At the end of the day, he was good. I think I might have also told people, I wrote a sleeper for Mikel Garcia, who ended up in the top second baseman overall. So there was some good stuff. Ellie De La Cruz and James Wood, they were really good in the first half. I love them in the first half, but then, obviously that whole thing fell
that crazy thing.
That little nugget that fell apart on me. I don't know. I did like O'Neal Cruz. Unfortunately, he looked terrible.
Both of us. Yeah, both of us on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't like Willie Adames going to San Francisco. That looked correct. Not liking him. I didn't really, there's a lot of people who I didn't like who didn't do well. Bo Bichette, I didn't like. He did well. So there's that. I don't know. I mean, I had some okay calls, I think, and then some probably terrible calls. I don't know. Maybe it evens out. I'm not sure.
Look, Bo Bichette was fine, Gray. I mean, you're counting on him hitting 311. He didn't have 20 home runs. He didn't have 5 stolen bases. Like, it's fine. At the end of the day, the counting numbers are there, and he had the average, and nobody else this year hit for average, so that helped him a lot. But come on, like 18-4. Like, I'm not even taking an L for that. I know I hate him, and I still won't draft him. But like 18-4, I'm not taking the L for that.
Well, that's the thing about, like, honestly, though. I mean, to a certain extent, I do feel like that is a thing a lot. Like, it's like you may be wrong, like, or I may be wrong on specifics, but the spirit of something, like, it's like Bo Bichette, he did do well for fantasy, but if you're going out and you're trying to draft every, under 20 homer, no steal, 300 hitter, it's bad process, like, it just is. Like, that's not good process. At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I mean, he did do well, but you can't rely on that.
No, I mean, the 94 runs and 311 is his whole package, and you don't know if that's going to be there or not year in, year out. Those are hard things to count on. So yeah, I think the process was right. I will again hate him next year when he gets overdrafted. So and again, you're just like, the upside isn't there. Even if you drafted him where he ended up, like, you feel good about that? No. Like, you could have had somebody who's way better than him, where he went. So don't give me that nonsense. Most of my people I remember that I was good about were people I hated, like Marcus Semien. I hated Freddie Freeman. Not so much I hated, but you hated him. Kyle Schwarber. I moved him up simply just to spite you when I was right. Everybody hated Aaron Nola, I think, but I hated Aaron Nola. I love Nick Pivetta year in, year out. I just do. I don't know why. Michael Garcia seemed like an easy steals thing. I guess we talked about Michael Bush, and I guess I got that right. But at the same time, I think I dropped him across all leagues at least 3 times this season. So I don't even know if that's right. A lot of the ones we got wrong were, Ellie, O'Neal Cruz. Those are bad. Jackson Merrill. I feel like we all love Jackson Merrill and Gunnar Henderson. And then Gunnar was hurt. Jackson Merrill sucked. Jordan got hurt.
I didn't love Jackson Merrill.
Okay.
But unfortunately, James Wood was the guy who I went for instead of Jackson Merrill.
That's still way better.
that was way better.
That's still way better, Greg.
Yeah, that is definitely a W. But I mean, there was a little bit of a struggle bus on the second half of that. It wasn't all peaches and cream with James Wood, unfortunately.
No. Maricopa on Jacob deGrom. Like, sorry, I didn't think he'd actually throw a season. Did anybody think he was going to throw a season? No. So don't. Whatever.
I was off on deGrom for sure. I was totally off on deGrom. But that again, I feel like it's like with the Bo Bichette thing, where it's like, technically I was wrong, but process wise, a guy who's like, what is he, 33, and he's just throwing his first full season? I feel like that's good process to avoid that. I mean, you can go ahead and draft him, and maybe you get the one dream season, but I don't think that's good process.
Yeah, 33 was so generous, Gray. He is 37 years old. So
oh my God, he's 37? Oh,
he's 37. Austin Riley, Marcelo Zuna, 2 more Braves to throw on the pile. Jason Dominguez, I really thought this was the year for Jason Dominguez. Matt McClain, you can just bury me on that one. I'm just done with that. Christian Walker, Dylan Cruz, I also thought were going to just take their next step. And not Christian Walker, I just thought he'd do what he always does, but he didn't even do that, and Dylan Cruz got hurt. So it is what it is, Gray.
Christian Walker was like, I mean, we were both wrong on Christian Walker, but that again, not to make excuses for us, but listen to me when I say everyone thought Christian Walker was going to be good in Houston. Houston is a smart team. They went out and they got Christian Walker, who pulls the ball and has the short porch at the Crawford boxes. I mean, that if you didn't think Christian Walker was going to be good in Houston, I feel like you're just guessing at stuff. So we were wrong, but we were right with everyone else.
I'm right there with you, Gray. Let's hand out some awards. Let's start with MVP. Let's do a best. That's really not hard. We can just look at the play writer, and then let's do a best value.
Yeah. Okay.
So the best. I mean, Ohtani, Judge, Raleigh, Soto. I mean, those were. Who are you taking? I mean, we got the draft, but who are you leaning for at 1?
Oh, it's got to be Ohtani.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, I don't even think it's a question, really. If you're a right-minded person, I mean, how do you not take a guy with 50 homer power, 20 steal speed, who hits 300 and also chucks in 20 starts? I mean, it feels kind of like a no-brainer, even if you don't get the pitching stats, because that's how your league is set up. His hitting stats alone, year over year, he's so good. I mean, yeah, Ohtani easily.
Yeah, and let's also not forget he was coming off the shoulder leg issue thing, so like he could also get back to like 30 steals, 56 steals, whatever.
That was also a thing, like people have completely forgotten the Ohtani thing, where it's like there was a large contingency of people who are like, I don't know if I'm drafting him because of the shoulder thing. Like, hey, you're crazy.
Oh no, he won't pitch. He'll still hit 50 home runs and 30 or 20 stolen bases.
That was the thing. Like that isn't like in retrospect, like, oh wow, those people are crazy. Like they were crazy then. They were crazy when they were saying it. So that was always crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, let's talk about best value, because that's really what matters here, Gray.
Cal Raleigh, out of nowhere. I mean, Cal Raleigh, I feel like he had the best value. I think there was guys like PCA had a great year for where you drafted him. Springer obviously had a great year for where you drafted him. Eovaldi. But like Cal Raleigh, I think had the best year ever for value. I mean, if you could get a ninth round catcher and hit 60 homers, I mean, come on, man. That's like you were hoping for 30. You were hoping for 30. If you got 20 to 25, you were like, okay, whatever. He's a catcher. You got 60 homers from him. I mean, it's just insane. I honestly, I don't think we're ever going to see anything like it again. I would be shocked if anyone ever comes close to, like, I feel like Cal Raleigh, what we just saw, 60 homers from a catcher. I don't think we're ever going to see that again. And that is so incredibly crazy.
Yeah, maybe if Schwarber or Ohtani want to step behind the plate, like maybe that could happen. Yeah. But that's about it. Like Schwarber could be a catcher again.
Totally.
Least valuable player, Gray, and there is no shortage of candidates. None. Who are you going with here?
Gunnar Henderson really, like, he screwed up a lot of my teams. I personally drafted Gunnar Henderson, so I felt the Gunnar Henderson like terrible season a lot. That hurt a lot of my teams. Like, I think he ended up with 17 homers, 29 steals. The steals were nice, but 17 homers from your first round pick, a guy who you think you're assuming you're going to get 30, you're hoping for 35 plus. To get 17, it's basically it's like you're done. And then to back that up into the second round, I drafted Yordan Alvarez. I mean, you want to talk about my labor team? I had Gunnar Henderson. I think I might have had Yordan Alvarez, and I had someone else. Maybe I didn't have Gunnar. I had Gunnar in a lot of leagues, but I also had Yordan Alvarez in multiple leagues. And Jordan Alvarez was awful too. I mean, he was like, you're assuming 35 homers. You're hoping having that big 50 homer season from Jordan that he's like hinted at. You're hoping for that. Instead, you get what? 5 homers? I mean, Jordan Alvarez was miserable to draft this year. Miserable.
He absolutely was. I'm going to go Jackson Merrill for mine. Just Gunnar Henderson also buried teams with Jackson Merrill. I had so many places, Gray, and he was not good. Corey Seager is one, and Mookie Betts. I'm sure both of them killed a lot of teams out there. They get an honorable mention. I didn't have them on mine because I didn't have them ranked there nearly that high. Maybe if you guys would listen to us, but hey,
maybe you listen to us. You would have Gunnar Henderson. You're not
instead of Corey Seager. That's still or Mookie. I would still take Gunnar Henderson over Mookie. That was still a win. Are you done? Are you done with anything, Gray? Anybody? Any thoughts here? I know I have a couple thoughts or people I'm done with after this season. What about you?
I don't know. I think a few of the guys who I feel like have aged out that I'm done, like Teoscar Hernandez, for instance. I think I'm done with him at this point. I think looking at him for next year, you look at him as like 25 homer, 270 hitter who's going to miss maybe 20 games or something. So that takes some runs and RBIs away. He becomes a, 150 overall guy versus, the 30 to 40 overall guy that he was last year. So if that's being done with someone, I think Teoscar, I think he's basically finished. As far as what he was, I think there's also, I'm kind of out on O'Neal Cruz. I don't know. I feel like I might be done with O'Neal Cruz. I can't get my head around, he can't hit 220 or whatever. It's just he doesn't want to run. The power's not coming in a way that I thought it would. The Pirates suck, so the runs and RBIs aren't there. I think it's time to put away the O'Neal Cruz thing. Unfortunately, because I loved O'Neal Cruz for many years now, but yeah, I think I'm done with O'Neal Cruz. I'm definitely done with Jordan Walker. That's for sure. Remember him? Oh my God.
Yeah. No more time for that one, Gray. Maybe in a Joe Adele year in 7 years or something when he's 32. Yeah, I agree with those. I think O'Neal Cruz might be hitting his Adalberto Mondesi peak, where this was as good as it gets, really. You look at it and you're like 2038, if you get 240, that's not the worst thing in the world. But I just don't know if he can put it all together, Gray. I think if he got traded from the Pirates, which he tried to do this season and may have tanked part of his season for that. If he can get traded from the Pirates, or I hear he's going to work somewhere else that's not the Pittsburgh organization in the offseason, I could maybe get in. But I just feel like the Pirates are just a terrible organization across the board when it comes to developing hitters. They have not developed a hitter since, I don't know, Brian Reynolds or Josh Bell. And we're talking about the two most boring hitters we've ever seen in our lives. That's not good development. And it's been 30 years. Where is your hitter that isn't Barry Bonds or Andrew McCutchen? Those are the only two guys. And they still have Andrew McCutchen. He's 39 years old. They still have him.
They still have him. He was probably their second most valuable hitter.
I hate to say it. That's got to be true, Gray. It almost has to be.
Tommy Pham and then McCutchen.
It has to be true. It was. They were so embarrassingly bad, Gray. Spencer Horwitz.
Speaking of guys that we're done with forever, I don't know if I'm done with him. Actually, I guess it doesn't apply because I don't know if I'm done with him forever. But Austin Riley is going to be really difficult to draft. Actually.
It's going to be really hard to get back in on Austin Riley. He's going to have to be free. Like, if he's free, I'll take the opportunity and we'll see. But that's it. The Pirates, great. They had one hitter who had a plus offensive WAR. One, and it was Spencer Horwitz.
Oh my god! So well,
yeah, I'm not drafting Pirates. This is why are we drafting players from these teams who can't develop anybody to hit the ball? I'm done with it, Gray. And they don't spend money, so you're not even bringing in people who hit the ball. Moving on to people who can hit the ball and throw the ball. Let's talk about some rookies of the year. AL only. I really like. It's Nick Kurtz. We don't have to. There's no discussion. Who would be after him if he didn't exist?
If he didn't exist. I don't know. Probably his teammate Jacob Wilson. I mean, he did. I think he hit. I want to say he hit like 311 or 313. He hit well. I guess him. Yeah.
I think it'd be him. I think if Roman Anthony had stayed healthy, he could have gotten the Boston push and maybe got there. But yeah, I think it's Jacob Wilson or maybe Jack Leiter, who was solid, very serviceable. But it was Nick Kurtz. That there was nobody else. The NL is a little more wide open, Gray. Who do you think it is from the NL?
I'd probably say Horton, I guess. That's a tough. I don't know. It's a tough. I don't know where the odds at.
The odds are on Horton right now. It's Horton, Baldwin, and that's pretty much it.
I would probably trust the odds if I were going to guess. I'd probably go. I guess Horton.
Yeah, I think it's Horton or Baldwin. I think Caleb Durbin deserves an honorable mention as somebody that I did like and I had in the NL only league that I won. And Nolan McLean, who came out of the rookie, and if they'd called him up, maybe the Mets wouldn't have blown it. Who knows? Let's talk about some breakouts, Gray, and there were plenty of those as well this season. Who were some of your favorite breakout players this season?
Oh man, I did like Junior Camarino. I liked him. I feel like I liked PCA too. Maybe not as much as you, but I liked him. I didn't draft him anywhere, but I did like PCA. Oh, I drafted and liked Chris Sanchez. That was a late one because it was like once he was throwing, I think it was 2 or 3 miles per hour faster in spring training. It was like, oh, that's good. I'm in on that. Andy Pages, I mentioned earlier, I drafted him in my Tout Wars NL only. That draft, I believe that draft happens like the first week of March. So I was definitely on Andy Pages. I liked him. Oh, actually on that team, I had Hunter Goodman. So I actually had Hunter Goodman probably more than any other player. So, that goes again to, punting, catching. I wish I would have punted catching and grabbed Cal Raleigh, but Hunter Goodman was the second best catcher this year. So, that wasn't terrible. Actually, on that Tout Wars team, I had Andrew Abbott too. I liked Andrew Abbott a lot. James Wood, he was also on that team. I had a lot of breakouts on that team. I wish Ranger Suarez and the rest of those schmohawks could have held it together in the second half. Those are some guys. I'll be honest, I liked picking up Nick Kurtz, but I did not draft Nick Kurtz anywhere. Or maybe I take that back. I think I did actually in NFBC league. I got Nick Kurtz in one league in a draft champions, which is a draft and hold. I think I got Nick Kurtz there, but for the most part, I wasn't drafting Nick Kurtz, but I did. I was early in on like picking him up. I did, I liked picking him up. I don't know if I necessarily was earlier than most people or everyone, but I was I think on the beginning ends of that. Who else? I don't know. That's a lot of players.
That's a good list there. Do you have 1 or 2 names you can throw for the people who might be an early breakout candidate? They might get a post of their own this offseason?
Ooh, an early sleeper. I don't know, man. I have to sort
Too
of
early.
yeah, it might be too early. I have to look at some names. But yeah, I mean, just looking now, I say this guy named Brenton Doyle. No, I'm joking. Not Brenton Doyle. Yeah, I don't know. I have to look at some names, but I think it's too early for right now. We're still doing the wrap on 2025. Next week is the 2026 draft.
Well, there's not going to be a sleeper there, Gray. With his top 25.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Anyone who plays in Sacramento. I like any hitter who's in Sacramento. I like anyone there. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that's
We'll
a
see.
valid place to put your hope and trust, Gray.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an official one yet, but I don't know. I mean, Roman Anthony's definitely going to be on that list. Jacob Marcy kind of came out and showed a little bit. Brett Beatty might have started that breakout. Jordan Westberg was tagged by a lot of people for it and kind of just he was injured at different times and never got together. I mean, I could see myself pretty much back in on the entire Baltimore offense. That was
Yeah.
one of my thought processes this year. Was like, if I just grab everybody in Baltimore, we'll start with Gunner, then we'll just work our way down the lineup. It'll be great. I may fall for that again next season, so we'll see if that happens. Bounce backs, Gray. There was definitely some good bounce backs this year. Who's the winner of the award?
No. I don't know. I'd probably say Trevor Story was like because I feel like Trevor Story was such a bounce back that he wasn't even really considered. Like Buxton, sort of, but Buxton was just like, Buxton was always good if he was healthy. Trevor Story hadn't been good or healthy in a while. So I would probably say Trevor Story because it was like, I feel like even if you were to say to someone like, you're going to get 130 games from Trevor Story, I think even at that point, people would be like, nah, there's nothing there anymore. Like he's done. So I think Trevor Story, Javi Baez was considered a bounce back in like July, but I don't think he ended up really being a bounce back. Like he had, what ended up looking like a bounce back from Javi Baez really was just him being good for the month of May and June. And then that's kind of it.
Yeah, kind of like the whole Detroit Tigers team. I mean, that was another just collapse.
Yeah, true. But they at least made the playoffs.
They snuck in the playoffs. Yes, they
Right.
just barely. Okay, great. Player most likely to repeat player most unlikely to repeat their success this year.
To repeat their success this year. Most unlikely. I think we've talked about like my PCA worries. I think we talked about them last week. I can't trust anything that the Rockies do. So anything Hunter Goodman, I don't trust that really. Cal Raleigh, I think we talked about Cal Raleigh last week too, where it's like he hit 60 homers this year. I mean, if you're projecting him for more than like 42 homers, I think you're crazy probably. And that's
Probably
18
a high
homers.
projection still too.
Yeah, and that's 18 homers off of what he did. So that's definitely not. I mean, that's not repeating, obviously. I don't know if you would, but I wouldn't trust DeGrom or Pavetta necessarily to repeat. So yeah, I don't know. There's a couple.
Yeah, Pavetta, I feel like is still not going to be expensive, so maybe I'll have some. But yeah, I'm not going to own DeGrom. Eovaldi's another one, just because he was high on the play radar. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be drafting him high either. But Eovaldi just does this every like 3 or 4 years. He'll have a good season where he just lucks into wins and throws all right, and then he's back to his normal, not so good self the rest of the time. Let's talk about some players you like to bounce back after this tough season, Gray.
Okay. No Braves. I'm sorry. I can't trust
Not a
them.
single one.
No, I don't. I can't trust the Braves anymore.
They've just done it. It's over. We're done with the
they've
Braves.
completely
Like
disappointed
the
me.
90s. We're done with it.
I'm gonna. I will. It'll be hard for me not to anticipate an Ellie De La Cruz bounce back. He is so talented. I feel like Ellie De La Cruz, and unlike O'Neal Cruz, Ellie at least hits for a decent average, even when he like struggled this year. So I feel like Ellie De La Cruz is going to be a guy who it's going to be hard for me not to be in on Ellie De La Cruz again. I anticipate next week is our 2026 draft show. I imagine Ellie De La Cruz is going to be drafted, not by you, at least by me, somewhere in the top 20. So definitely going to bounce back there. I kind of like Wyatt Langford if he can, if he can keep his obliques healthy. I feel like he's still young enough where I think there could be something there with Wyatt Langford for a bounce back. And then, I'm going to, as much as Gunnar Henderson bothered me this year, it's going to be hard not to be in for the bounce back there because, like, I don't think he was healthy this year. I think he had a bad oblique in March. It never really got healthy, I don't think. And, it cost him kind of his power this year. So I don't know. I hope I'm not in on Gunnar Henderson, but I think I might be.
I'm definitely going to be back in on Gunnar Henderson, Gray. I just think he's a really good baseball player. Like there's not much more to that than my thinking than that. I just think he's a really good baseball player. Wyatt Langford, I could definitely see him breaking out, and especially because you got to think Bruce Bochy's gone. Like his contract's up. They were terrible. I mean, terrible this season. They have to be looking at a change, and that can only be good for Wyatt Langford. Like
Bruce Bochy, he hit Jock Peterson like third or something in the lineup. And Jock Peterson had like a 160 average. At times, Bruce Bochy was hitting him leadoff. I mean, come on, man. Like I'm not a major league manager, but I can tell you, Jock Peterson should not be hitting leadoff. I mean, the only thing he does is occasionally hits a solo homer. He does nothing else. He hits 160 with the occasional solo homer, and that's the guy you want hitting leadoff? Like, come on, man. Come on, bro.
Yep, a little overthinking there, and that's probably why he's gone and looking for a new job. So I do like Wyatt Langford. I'll probably like the Rangers in general because they'll finally be allowed to run, I would assume. And just getting away from Bruce Bochy has to help the lineup as a whole. I can't see how it doesn't.
Yeah.
Although that ballpark is still just horrendous. It's not doing anybody favors. Maybe they'll make some changes this season. That would be amazing. I haven't heard that the Rangers are changing anything in ballpark. But if they could bring the fences in like 40 feet and lower them 10, that would be awesome.
We haven't heard anything about Bruce Bochy being fired or the stadium changing, but here's
we really want these things to happen, Gray. Absolutely. That is the end of season wrap up, Gray. As you mentioned, next week we will be back to do the 2026 preposterously early draft of the first 25 people, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, enjoy playoff baseball. Go Cubs, and let's just enjoy this playoff baseball that we get, Gray, and not have to write podcast or set lineups. Well, I guess we're still podcasting, and you're probably still writing, but still, we're just gonna enjoy some playoff baseball, and of course, I will enjoy football as well. If you have any football stuff, I can still help you on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is the at Razball account. I don't think he's got much, but maybe he can send you my way or to the Football Razball account. Check out the Sunday live show if you have start sit questions. And always Subscribe to our podcast on wherever you get them and youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. I will see you next week, Gray. Talk to you later.
All right, Lates.